Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Camerata Podcast. This is your host, Andres Marquez, as always, and I am here today on a very crisp Los Angeles afternoon with producer and DJ Noons, who I believe is going through a very crisp night at this moment.
That's correct. Yeah, very nice, cozy, crisp evening in the UK. Yep.
Lovely. I'm happy to hear it. Is it good weather at the moment?
Yeah, usually around this time of year, the weather starts getting like less rainy and more, getting towards that summer weather. So, yeah, this last week it's been like fairly good.
That's awesome. I'm happy to hear it. I'm very much a cold weather fan. Autumn and winter are my those are my faves out of the 12 months of the year.
Yeah, that's understandable. In the UK, like it's kind of just winter and summer. There's no in between. We'll have the 6 months of just like really cold, cloudy, like miserable weather, and then we'll
Mhm.
halfway through the year around now we'll just have that sudden. It'll just like you'd flick the switch pretty much, and it'll go to like nice weather. So, but yeah, I'm definitely more of a summer person myself.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Just all the feel good energy and everything. Always just preferred it. But winter's lovely as well, especially if it snows.
Hmm. Yeah, Los Angeles is not a place where you want to experience summer. It's it gets it bakes over here. It gets
Yeah,
real
no,
cranked.
you must get like sick of the sun over there after a while, surely.
Oh yeah,
Um,
like it's
yeah.
supposed to be 81 degrees today. I'm very happy that it's been cool for most of the for the day. Stuff is just so wacky around here, and the whole, the slow baking of our planet does not help this small microcosm of existence that I am planted
Oh yeah, no, certainly not.
in.
I mean,
But
yeah, it's scary enough over here. Just every year it seems to just us Brits, we're not used to the sun like you are over there. So like every year when it gets just warmer and warmer, it's kind of like oh shit, this is getting like pretty serious, kind of
yeah,
thing.
it's
So
frightening to say the least.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and perhaps we can touch on some of these strange, frightening existential nightmares later in the cast. But I did
Possibly,
want,
yeah.
I did want to ask for an introduction from you, Noons. Give us a brief, who, what, where, when about the life of you.
Yeah, for sure. So, long story short, I'm a DJ and events organizer from Nottingham in the UK. And yeah, I've been sort of doing this um, sort of around when the pandemic started. I just needed like something to do and thought, you know what, why not just start this whole like the whole Wicked Sick thing and posting sets under like an alias because for a while I was just like DJing and posting mixes on SoundCloud under like my real name, which I don't think anyone
Mhm.
actually knows, so I'm gonna keep it that way. Um, and I was just feeling really inspired to sort of start something fresh, and yeah, just Noons popped into the equation. Just started mixing and posting sets during lockdown, and then it all went from there. Really, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I was very lucky to be able to see at least a couple of the sets that you'd thrown. And there was also at least one event that I remember you being at, whether or not it was yours, I don't recall. Um, Originally, I had found you through Flux Psyche, aka Nat. They
Yes,
are
that's
another
correct.
lovely producer, musician,
Amazing
based.
person. Yeah, big fan of
Indeed,
theirs.
very happy to have gotten to hang out with them and some friends last week out in the hometown of Santa Monica.
Oh,
Uh,
lovely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We got to stay over at their place and just walk around, have a good old time. But yeah, that is to say, I discovered your work, your music, and your events through Nat's involvement with you, And since then, I've
Yeah.
been, trying to keep tabs on all the awesome stuff that you do, all these different, how do you say, remote sort of events that you've held over Twitch and other
Yeah.
platforms, such
Yeah,
as that.
like digital events and stuff, which kind of wasn't really a thing until the pandemic, which is kind of crazy.
Indeed, indeed.
Because it just seems perfect to me. Like when when the whole digital events thing like started really becoming kind of mainstream, because that was all we had.
Hmm.
I was just thinking like this is like so accessible and just like a perfect way for people like myself who like are very underground and don't have much of a following and don't have those eyes on what they're doing yet. It's a great way for you to sort of kickstart your I guess career in a way, and like just
Hmm.
get some exposure on your art or your mixes or whatever it is you do. I just think it's been so good for that, and obviously it's been great for just like no matter where you are in the world, just like literally just send someone a DM like, hey, I'm putting together this show, do you want to play? And then like usually people are down, and you just get to meet so many people and give people these opportunities that maybe otherwise they wouldn't be able to get. And yeah, I don't know, I just became really attached to all of that and kept doing it. So
Oh, I can see why. I can. It's um, you touch on a number of points that I resonate with as somebody who also throws events. Um, I get attached to it every time I make something like this happen. We've only really focused on live events during the pandemic. We kind of just shut down things because a lot of the musicians we work with are like bands or part of bands.
yeah,
Um, so it was kind of just a different environment for us to try and navigate. So we instead focused on like collaborative projects and stuff. Uh, but in
yeah,
any case, when it comes to events and when it comes to these big communal projects that involve a lot of collaboration and a lot of organization between people, there's such an opportunity for like closeness and
yeah,
creative
100%.
intimacy that I absolutely enjoy, which is why I keep doing this shit, and which is why I understand anybody or why anybody would keep doing it. Um, and you also touched upon how it creates a great opportunity for folks who might not otherwise have access to certain audiences or access to certain, I suppose, venues,
Yeah,
things that you know might make it difficult for an artist of a certain stature or of a certain how do you say, of a certain, what's the word I'm looking for,
uh, like
circumstance.
yeah, like yeah, no, exactly, because
uh
not everyone lives in like LA, not everyone lives in New York or like London, where there's like these big local scenes and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So, and I mean, like, obviously, like, pretty much everyone has the internet at their disposal.
Hmm.
So that's why just like putting together, yeah, like an online show, a URL show, as people call them. Yeah, it like creates that bridge for people to, yeah, just
Yeah.
connect with other people and get their stuff out there in a way that, yeah, as you said, like IRL shows or real life shows doesn't do.
Hmm.
Which is amazing. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Exactly. And I think because a lot of people, including me, for a certain amount of time, we were kind of bemoaning the fact that if we wanted to do any sort of event during the pandemic, it had to be virtual because it was just too dangerous to try and throw anything in the physical space.
Yeah.
That was my kind of grudge against it for a bit, but then exploring different events, including yours that were happening,
Mm.
I got the sort of mindset that it's like this is such a wonderful alternative to in-person events. It's not
Yeah, for
only
sure.
more accessible, but there are some things that certain platforms allow for that make it so much more inclusive than certain aspects of live events can be. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure you would have been able to be on the same bill as Nat just a couple of
Yeah.
years ago
No,
unless you put
exactly.
in major money for one of y'all to fly out to the other's locale. That's just one of the many miracles that the World Wide Web is allowing artists such as us.
Yeah, exactly, and yeah, that's another thing that is just like so fun about it is yeah, you can literally perform with people from the other side of the world. Like I've been on lineups with friends from like New Zealand and like Australia and places like that. Literally places just the other side of the world that like otherwise I probably wouldn't be able to do for who knows how long. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, and I mean of course like there's something about live shows like being at a show in real life that can't be replicated with virtual gigs such as the ones I put together.
Yeah.
But sort of, I guess virtual events at times can miss that sort of like togetherness kind of thing of being in a
Hmm.
crowd that
Hmm.
IRL shows obviously um, do great and probably can't be replaced. But it doesn't mean like there isn't a place for URL shows and like URL shows, as you said, they thrive in other areas, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I don't know. I I just hope it sticks around, honestly, because obviously now, like real life shows are coming back,
Hmm.
and you start to see less and less of people that sort of I follow within the scene doing URL shows, and like it does worry me a little bit because I would like to find that balance between like both. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess we'll see how things go, sort of in the next like few years even like
Yeah. Yeah.
when we continue to tackle this virus and whatnot.
Hmm.
um so yeah.
Yeah. If I may make one more point regarding online shows, I think that the future, if if the corporate conglomerates that kind of hold the balance of life in their hands have their sway, then perhaps the future isn't something to look forward to too much. But being a revolutionary leftist as I am, I always have hope that we will, put the Musks and the Zucks of the world, uh, you know, onto our own level. That being said, I'm very hopeful that advances in technology will help make these virtual events way more intimate, way more emotionally connective than they are
Right.
currently. Uh,
Yeah.
if
it's
you,
it's
oh
it's
my
funny
bad.
that you say that. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. Go on.
Um I was gonna get to this later anyway while I was on the topic of the whole togetherness thing.
Hmm.
But VR chat raves are becoming more and more of a thing as time goes
Yes,
on.
exactly what I was
Which
gonna
was
get
that
to.
what you were gonna get
Yes,
to? Oh,
yes.
okay, okay. Um, yeah, no, that's exactly the thing. Like over time, especially with VR chat, people sort of figuring that out more and more how to make it. Yeah, I guess like replicate what it would feel like to be at a real club. And I mean, yeah, it's still not perfect. My main problem with VR chat shows that I've been to is I guess the social aspect kind of does overshadow the music at times.
Hmm.
Like I've been to a few that friends of mine have played at or friends of mine have put together, and that's been like my one thing that I think VR chat could improve on is like yeah, just like there's too much talking, maybe not enough acknowledging the artist that's playing. But like
Hmm.
besides that, like it's definitely looking really bright. The future of VR chat, I think, and it's definitely something I want to get more into. It's a bit scarier than like putting together a Twitch rave like that kind of thing. I kind of know how to do pretty well.
Right,
That's
right.
like that's like unknown territory, so it's a little scarier. But maybe someday that's something I could like get more into. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, the whole VR chat music scene, Twitch's music scene is already really amazing. There are already a lot
Yeah,
of awesome artists that I personally like who stream often. Uh,
yeah,
Adding the complexities of VR chat, the ability to have an avatar move about in this digital space in real
yeah.
time while somebody is performing in real time, that just adds a whole other layer. And I'm just hoping that advances in both technology and equity will allow for greater access to
Yeah,
um, even more, how do you say, I'm sorry, my brain is mush like 60% of the time.
It's
Um,
okay.
not invasive, not invasive.
Do you mean like a immersiveness kind of thing?
Immersive. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So even more immersive. Thank you,
Yeah,
news.
sorry. I was my
Anybody,
brain's also a little mush, so yeah,
anybody I talk to, I got to
I get
rely
it.
on them to be like the other 40%. We got to share neurons for a bit.
Yeah, no, good. It's teamwork. It's teamwork. Yeah.
We usually have a section at the very end of our show where we just dedicate 5 or 10 minutes to shouting out different artists in our
Oh
local
yeah.
scenes or on the global scene that we absolutely love and
Oh,
that
for
inspire
sure.
us.
No, that's great. I have so many people that
Yeah, yeah.
like,
We could save it
yeah.
for the end, but there is somebody on the topic of these VR shows that I absolutely need to just put out there right now.
Oh yeah, no,
Um,
go ahead.
my homeboy Andrew Eastman, the real deal. I was with you when Survive the Weather first hit that one bar that no longer exists in Whittier. I was with you when you started Ecovox. I am always in support of Andrew Eastman's projects. He's an absolute legend. He introduced me to my first Minecraft rave.
Oh, hell yeah.
Minecraft. I was so blown away. This shit was off the charts.
Mate,
Uh,
those Minecraft raves were like my shit, dude. Like for so
I
long. I love those.
I didn't think that could be a thing. I was like, how do you get that? Because like I had seen people build like these like computers in Minecraft. I had seen people able to play like MP4 files through Minecraft,
Yeah.
but I had never seen something like of this scale, like an entire server, this really lush, beautiful little Minecraft world, with a dedicated music performance zone. It was just
Yeah.
so mind blowing.
Nah,
I,
for
I just
sure.
I got to shout out Andrew Eastman. I forgot how to exactly pronounce his latest project's name. It's got a really weird name. I'm gonna put that though in the video, and I'm gonna put that in the links in the caption.
Awesome.
So please check
Yeah.
out Andrew's work.
No, I'll definitely make sure to check that out. That sounds
Hell
great.
yeah. If you want to shout anybody out now before we move on to other stuff, please do. Like, I'm very much interested. I'm invested in this little uh, you know patent backs kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, God, there's so many great people that I'd love to shout out. I think the number one person that's like always been just amazing and is also just like one of my um like favorite SoundCloud DJs and like just a really good friend.
Yeah.
Taffa Online, also known as just Taffa.
Hmm.
Really great, like sort of. I think they're mainly doing like VR chat stuff nowadays. Great VR chat DJ, absolutely kills it every time. Constantly playing her sets like in the car on like long journeys and stuff. They're just so good. Um, and yeah, just an amazing person all around. Like they, when I was like really struggling to, there was like a time period where like I was kind of struggling to find gigs for a bit, and they were like really helping me find shows and like getting me on lineups, and I'm forever grateful for that because, you know, there's never a worse time as a DJ and like just not having any shows to play or like
Hmm.
have
Oh
any
yeah.
yeah, just like have anything to look forward to with that. So and like get your name out there more and then obviously try and get more shows from there. So yeah, no, like definitely go check out Taffa. Like huge inspiration to me with her mixes and like just an amazing person all around as well.
Thank you very much, everybody in the audience. Just if you're not familiar with this, you can find all the links to all the artists that we mention in this podcast in the description of the YouTube video. Um, haven't really figured out how to get Spotify descriptions to link to like Instagram pages and whatnot. But
Right.
if you're hearing this, check out our YouTube video of this cast, and you can see all the artists that we mentioned that we shout out during the cast. But yeah, so if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go 30 seconds, get me some water, and then
Yep, that's
hop
fair.
back in for another like 20 minutes or so if that's cool with you.
All right. Yeah. No, sounds
Awesome.
great.
We'll return shortly. Hey there.
Yo.
All right, we are back. Actually, I got a burp. One sec.
No worries. I've been
So
having
sorry.
to. You got to mute the mic every now and then. Usually, it's my strategy.
Well,
I've like just had dinner before recording this, so you know how it be.
I totally get you. Don't want
uh,
to emit too much while you're on the air.
oh no, exactly.
All right, so back into, I suppose, into a different facet of conversation that I wanted to ask you about. And this is something I try and ask everybody because I find it personally interesting. What was the beginning of your, I suppose, DJ ship slash musicianship like? Like, what inspired you to pursue the certain creative crafts that you are currently pursuing?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I've always been like super into music. I think like music was like the first thing ever since like a kid that like I became really passionate about and was just like a huge like music fan from like a young age, like
Mhm.
just listening to like music constantly. I mean, as a young as a much as a child, should I say, um like a lot of my music taste just came from the radio. So like I got really into sort of like pop music at the start, and then as I grew up, that kind of turned into I sort of went over to more like listening to EDM stuff.
Mm.
So like when I was sort of starting what we call secondary school here, when you're sort of like I was must have been like 11, 12 years old at this time.
Oh.
You start getting into like stuff like Skrillex, Dead Mouse, like Daft
Mm.
Punk kind of stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Um, and then over time, um, like a few years later, I met someone who like had a DJ controller and was showing me their mixes. Like this is while I was still at school, and I was
Mm.
like, wow, this is incredible! Like you just bought a controller and just started doing this. Like this is insane. Uh, and like we sort of talked a bit, and then after a few months, they were buying a new controller and said I could like buy that. Like I was like broke as fuck like at this time, so um like if I could get a controller for cheap, I was going to do it. And they were like offering me their used controller that they had before this new one for like basically half the price of what it would have been like at retail, you know. um so I was like, yeah, fuck, I'll take it. So I bought that for like 100 quid. um and then yeah, like that was it. Like just started practicing it, and yeah, just discovering like new music as I was going on. Like I started out doing more like I think like house and garage type stuff. I was really inspired by this British DJ called DJ EZ. I'm not sure if you're familiar with EZ over there. I don't know if he's very well known. Have you
uh,
heard of DJ EZ before?
I actually am not as familiar with a lot of house, garage, those forms of the more underground EDM stuff. My main sort of music scene, if you were to call it that, I'm very much into like math rock, indie, a lot of jazz influenced music. I've just
Oh right.
started getting into the early dubstep, like Koki and
Oh yeah, no,
All
that
those
stuff's great.
folks from the late '90s, early 2000s, Burial too. I just got turned on to that
Yeah,
magic,
yeah, Burial's great.
but I'm still not as well versed as I would like to be. And that all to say, I am not aware of DJ EZ or EZ.
EZ, yeah. I mean, that's fair enough, dude. Like, I'm like same with me. Like to this day, I'm always like broadening my musical tastes and my musical horizon. You could say, constantly trying to just discover new stuff and everything. And yeah, um, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're getting on the whole. I guess like you could say EDM bandwagon slowly. Anyway, eventually you'll maybe bump into EZ stuff. I know he's like very influential here, at least. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure like on a worldwide scale, but yeah, essentially, I got this DJ controller. I was like trying to learn how to DJ like as quickly as possible, and I remember I'd like just watch a bunch of like YouTube compilations of like his like best mixing and stuff, and I'd try and like copy that kind of stuff essentially, and do a really bad job at it, like not very good job at it at all because he's like really good. Um, but yeah, I just kept practicing it, and then yeah, eventually that took me to posting mixes on SoundCloud for a few years, not really getting any traction at all. And then yeah, as I said, like eventually getting to where I am now with Noons and Wicked Sick and everything.
For sure. Yeah, just as a little addendum, there are people who are probably more well versed in EDM have probably watched this video. A lot of my current British EDM knowledge came from a video by a fellow named Timba on Toast on YouTube. He has this very
Right.
popular video called "All My Homies Hate Skrillex."
Yes, no, I
Uh,
think I've seen that video.
uh,
Yeah.
I personally don't. I don't have the sort of connection that fellow Timba had to the uh, pre Brostep dubstep scene in
Yeah.
London and those environs. So I, grew up liking Skrillex and Dead Mouse and folks like that, and
Yeah.
I still can currently really appreciate artists like Burial,
Yeah,
Koki,
no, for sure.
um, that all to say, that's where a lot of my knowledge of this came from. This is something that I was completely unaware of until I saw this video. This whole genesis of this entire genre that folks today know as dubstep.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's fair enough, dude. I mean, I pretty much went on with like dubstep specifically. I went down like pretty much the same journey as you. Like Skrillex was yeah like my intro to dubstep as well. And I didn't discover all of those artists like the UK based stuff since till like years later. Like
Hmm.
not till I started learning how to DJ really did I really discover that scene properly. So yeah, I mean like but of course I can still appreciate stuff like Skrillex and all that. I think looking back, like people like Skrillex and Dead Mouse and people like those were like big inspirations in like making me want to DJ in the first place, kind of thing. So
Right, right.
yeah, um, there's nothing wrong with liking both or liking one or the other.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I'm
Yeah,
totally on the same boat. I'm just saying, like that was. I found it so surprising that. Oh, well, actually, I now that I think about it, I can kind of understand where Timba was coming from. I'm
yeah.
not sure if you were ever into emo music, what
Oh
we call
yeah.
emo over here.
Had like a big emo face for sure.
I
Like
don't.
in my late teens, you could say. Yeah.
At this point, I think I only know 3 people around my age group who didn't have an emo phase.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's the same here. Like pretty much everyone had a bit of a like pop punk emo phase
Yeah,
at
yeah.
some point. Yeah, no.
Uh, but that is to say, emo had a very similar sort of schism when it first sort of began to crawl out of the primordial soup of music in like the late '80s. You had bands like Rise of Spring who were starting stuff off, and then you had bands that really sort of kind of cemented what the emo sound was. That was like Sunny Day Real Estate. That was
Oh yeah,
Jawbreaker, and then you had all the offshoots like Modest Mouse doing their thing in the late '90s. But
yeah,
all the while, um, people were really not there. There was a divide because emo was seen as this sort of how do you say, this sort of counterpoint to hardcore. It used to be called emo core because it was emotional hardcore music, and you'd have bands like Minor Threat who were on the on the very verge of the hardcore thing in the '80s who were like, you know, why does it have to be
yeah,
called that? Hardcore punk isn't emotional enough for you. It's like it's very it was just kind of like, arguments on the aesthetic
yeah,
at
for
the at
sure.
the very deepest.
I think
Um
I still meet people that have that kind of argument to this day. Like
yeah. Yeah, it's
when I show people, or when I back when I was listening to a lot of that stuff, and I'd show people bands like Basement and like bands like
oh
that, and
yeah.
they'd be like, oh, what is this like weird like melodic like hardcore stuff? This isn't I don't know. They'd just be very like closed minded to it and just hate it instantly.
Unfortunately
Um,
so.
yeah, I don't know. It's yeah, it's one of those weird things. But yeah, you
Yeah.
seem to have a lot more knowledge on that whole scene uh, compared to me. I kind of just like listen to um, bands that like my friends were listening to,
Uh-huh.
and then just like went to the concerts of those bands and like listened to them like in my spare time and stuff. But that was it. I didn't really like dive into like the nitty gritty stuff and all that.
Oh,
It
that's
was
fair. That's fair.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that all to say, it was bands that really took emo into the sort of spotlight of pop culture, like My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy.
Oh yeah, no,
Those were
the
the bands.
greats. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, those were the bands though that made that they were like the Skrillex of the emo scene. Those
Oh
were the
yeah, hundred
bands that
percent.
made all the hardcore people just kind of wince. And it's
Yeah, yeah.
understandable too. It felt like this sort of distillation of what made punk.
Of course, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and as somebody
Um,
who grew up with both, it's like I
mm.
kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's
Yeah, it's like they're scared that this little thing that was like kind of their like I guess that like secret kind of thing that like only them and like a select few enjoy. Suddenly, like the whole world is like hopping on this like train kind of thing, and then
exactly,
suddenly,
exactly.
yeah, it's I mean, it's, as you said, it's the same as the Skrillex video. Suddenly, it's like not cool anymore to like this kind of thing, or it's like suddenly now that everyone else knows about it, you're less interested. I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I love bands like Fallout Boy and My Chemical Romance. I think they're all
Oh,
amazing as
same,
well.
same.
Um,
They're just two facets of the same big gem.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, going back to your history because I don't want to keep on rambling about my love of emo. Uh,
Nah, that's fine. I mean, I can talk about like emo bands from my late teens all day. Honestly.
I did want to ask though, regard because you had mentioned going to shows and
Yeah.
checking out all these bands that your friends liked. I did want to ask, what are some of those like formative live music experiences for you? Who are
Oh
some of
yeah.
these
No.
artists that you see, whether or not they were live bands or DJing artists? What were those bands that formed those core experiences for you?
That's a great question. Um, so I mean, I didn't go to my first gig until I was like 14. Trying to remember which gig that was, but that was like really impactful for me. Like ever since I first went to like my first concert, I think it was KTB in at Rock City in Nottingham. Have you heard of KTB? Um,
Katie, no, I don't think I have.
she's like like pop rave artist. It's very odd, but it works. Um, Yeah, they I think they were the first gig I went to, and yeah, like it was just an amazing experience being able to go to like a small venue and see someone like that live and just the energy of it. I think since then, I just kept going to more. I got like hooked on going to
Oh, for sure.
concerts, and then from then, I think again that really develops like an interest in later down the line performing now. Because I just, yeah, like as a DJ, I just loved the, and like as a performer, I just love the idea of like putting on this like show that just makes people happy. Like that was just like a really great feeling to me, and like makes me very happy to do that. Um, so yeah, I think that in particular was a really big moment. And then gigs like later down the line that were like just really important and eye-opening to me in terms of like what can be
Hmm.
done with live music as a medium. I think in 2016 I went to Leeds Festival in the UK,
Oh,
and Skrillex and Diplo were doing a set as have you heard of Jack Hugh?
Jack Hugh. No, well, I've heard of them, but I'm not familiar with any of their
Yeah,
music.
they did a big like chart hit with Justin Bieber back in the day. But yeah, they were doing a set at that festival, and that was like the first big like EDM show I went to. And I remember after that gig just being like mind blown, like wow, like I'd never been to a show that was like quite as just like huge, and like there's like a big light show and the visuals are going crazy. Like that moment was like holy shit, like there's so much more you can do with like live music as a medium. And like obviously looking at like that like now during like the last couple of years with like the pandemic and stuff, the whole Twitch rave thing, like putting together a set and then putting together these like amazing visuals that people do, like I think yeah, just I think there's a big connection there for sure, just in realizing like what you could do with the medium, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. No, that's honestly beautiful. Like I am so inspired whenever I feel or whenever I see somebody taking an already established form of expression or in this case performance,
Yeah,
just taking that to a whole other level, something that I wouldn't have thought of. So whenever I hear people talk about that, it's like that's just one of my like those things that just makes me light up. I love hearing about stuff like that.
yeah, no, it's like same here. It's always like such a pleasant experience. Just like hearing yeah, like just like again like sharing these experiences and just yeah, seeing like the different, I guess, like creative impacts they can have even on people. It's always yeah,
Hmm.
really interesting as well.
For sure. All right, so we're going to start winding down the cast. I did want to ask just one question. And I suppose we can make it as brief or as long of a sort of conversation point as we want.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask regarding what is visible to you within your local scene.
Mm.
Although I do remember you mentioning that perhaps there isn't as much of a scene in Nottingham. Um, so, as well as, any sort of global or transnational scene that you
Yeah.
feel you are a part of, uh, oh, cracked the shoulder. I did want to ask if there are any sorts of issues of inequity that are particularly visible to you and that particularly speak to you as an artist and like, as a person in general. And I wanted to ask, what are the ways that you feel that these things can be addressed. I think these are conversations that need to be held more often if we want to reach a more equitable, sustainable, and just,
Of course,
thriving
yeah.
future for all.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, as you said, in terms of like local scenes in Nottingham, um, there isn't so much of one for people such as myself, at least not in like the kind of music I do, which is like,
Hmm.
the more hyper pop, like hardcore, nightcore type stuff.
Right, right.
But I mean, I can definitely talk about it, I guess, a little bit in terms of like the digital space that I'm in currently.
Mm.
Um, how whichever way you want to call this scene that I'm in. I don't even know what it's called sometimes. I just say like the weird internet people scene.
Well, that's the thing.
uh,
There are even within the internet, there
yeah,
are so many different subcultures, and that's what
exactly. Yeah, they all
makes
just
it.
kind of come together. Yeah.
It is a place in
Um,
and of itself.
but yeah, there's. I mean, yeah, there's definitely that. uh, yeah, that inequality in terms of like which artists get like a certain amount of exposure, or I guess which artists get booked for things and so forth. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the best thing to do is just like, I mean, me personally, I've always tried to be as like inclusive as possible with my shows. Like, I'll try and get like a diverse lineup every time, or at least try my best to, at least try and get like a good variety of like different people from like, even if it's like from different communities or different walks of life, or whether they're trans performers or people of color or whatever else. I always try and make it as inclusive and as varied as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, it's a tricky one. And again, like, uh I'm just, I'm just a white dude. I don't know the specifics on like the best ways of going about it, but I'd just say, like, just if you're following any POC trans producers, DJs, just show them all the support you can, because it's not easy for people out there, especially uh, people from those communities. They seem to get like kind of left out a lot of the time. Like, have you've seen these like created like playlists on like Spotify and stuff like that, like the hyperpop playlist for example,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. They're usually like just littered with white artists. I notice a lot of the time.
Oh no, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, so like for stuff like that, especially, like, try and get, try and give some other people a chance that you maybe wouldn't consider straight away, or just try and get a bit more variety in there. I think everyone deserves, like, as much of a chance as anyone else at the end of the day, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Oh, for sure. Like that is another, like I understand. You are just a white dude, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Perhaps there is intersectionality in your identity that I'm unaware of. But I'm kind of just a white dude too.
yeah, yeah.
I'm Mexican by heritage, but I am white enough to go unnoticed in daily
Right.
American life. Um, but that is to say that knowing this and being able to tell people that is it is a strong thing to do, and it's one of the right things to do, because there are too
Yeah.
few folks who are not exercising the privileges that they have been born with in
Mm.
the silly cosmic lottery that we live. Um, Not exercising their privilege and making themselves and other communities worse off because of it. Uh,
Yeah.
you mentioned, Spotify playlists that kind of just have a very bright focus on white artists.
Yeah.
Um,
No, exactly.
yeah, and
That's
that
always
is,
like that's always the one that's like a lot of the time is at like the forefront of my mind, because like in this like digital space we're in, that's where everyone's listening to music,
yeah, yeah,
is Spotify and streaming services like that. And if you're just getting left out constantly, um you're just not going to get anywhere. When you like, a lot of people like deserve the same chances, like, uh yeah, I don't know, that's just always the main thing I that's on my brain.
oh, for sure. Spotify, in and of itself, is a very unequal platform.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Like,
had a feeling it was gonna get to that. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean, they pay like the least out of like pretty much every streaming service, I think, or
yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
yeah, something like that. Anyway,
Every
and I mean,
stream. Oh, my bad. Go on.
sorry, yeah. I mean, they like, none of them pay amazingly, but like I think, if I remember correct, like Spotify is drastically worse than like the majority. Um, Yeah, I think you were going to say like the exact amount, weren't you? Before I cut you off there,
Yeah, yeah.
I
No
do
worries, no worries.
apologize.
I have the how do you say? I have the dual. habits of talking too long and interrupting at times. So please feel free to just let me know if I'm doing either of those.
Oh no, of course not. No, it's just me getting overexcited and trying to jump in and say things. This is
No,
my
it's all
bad.
good. We have very similar personalities that
Yeah,
but that is to say, Spotify's rate per stream is 0.00437 uh, dollars. So
right.
that is
Yeah,
less than a penny per stream.
exactly.
If you wanted to make minimum wage, average minimum wage in the United States, you would need to be making at least 200,000 streams monthly,
Yeah,
and that's just for a single person.
yeah. No, it's messed up. And
Yeah, yeah.
I think I saw a news article recently. It was like the CEO of Spotify saying like, "Our artists can't wait like 2, 3 years between albums. You need to be like dropping an
Yeah.
album like every 6 months if you want to make a living, kind of thing." And it's like, it shouldn't have to be that way. It's
No,
it's
no,
really
not at
it's
all.
really messed up.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's just a shame that like we have to rely on like stream. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess you could argue that, but in terms of like music being accessible nowadays, you
Mhm.
do kind of have to rely on things like Spotify, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless you were to just like buy all of your music off like Bandcamp and stuff like that, which I mean, personally, I definitely can't afford to do at this point.
Exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
So it's just very unfortunate.
That's the double-edged sword of our strange neoliberal form of accessibility. It's that with streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music, you have access to this incredible birth of music from centuries upon centuries of artists for for a cost that is affordable to many folks, including folks who might
Yeah.
be part of the lower or the lower middle class. But at the same time, because of the rate of pay for that these platforms give their artists, it automatically disadvantages folks who are already coming from poverty or coming from some
Mm,
form of intersectional disadvantage. Um, in America, there is a huge system of institutional racism and sexism that has completely it is incredible to see the amount of stratification between the incomes and the livelihoods of people who are of lighter skin and who are male and cis and
mm,
people who just aren't any. So that's what you were saying earlier. Give artists of color and artists of different sexualities and genders it is I don't wanna say that it's people's responsibility to do that, but if you are looking for new music, if you want something to
mm.
enjoy that might be outside of your current wheelhouse, all of you who are listening, please, like, support folks who
Yeah.
at this point are far more disadvantaged than the folks you might be seeing regularly on Audio Tree or on, you know, Spotify playlists and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It you music communities thrive in the same way that communities of all types thrive, and that
Mm.
is through the support of folks who are disadvantaged.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with everything you said there pretty much.
Appreciate it.
Um, but yeah, no, like as you said, like it's not everyone's responsibility necessarily to like I get it. Everyone has their own stuff that they're doing constantly in life, and I know that it's like it's tough to like keep up with everything or like find the time to like go out and make sure you're again like supporting like people of color musicians or artists or
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
people of different sexualities, but like if you can find the time to do it, like I've been trying to stay on top of it more as of late. Like it definitely doesn't hurt to just try and go that extra mile when you can, for sure.
Mhm, mhm. All right. Well, that is going to be the end of today's conversation. Thank you to everybody in the audience who is listening. We always appreciate the support any support shown to the Camerata and what we try to do to help, spread the good word of local indie art. And thank you, Noons, for providing such a wonderful, engaging conversation. Um, it This was just a fun one. This was just so lovely. Even if we got into some dark spots, it was
Yeah.
you having conversation with you is quite the time. So if
No, thank
there's
you.
yeah,
I'm really grateful that you asked me to do this, and yeah, it's been a really great conversation, and yeah, and honestly, just thank you for like constantly supporting like me and like the Wicked Six stuff. I know like whenever I put on an event, you always like repost it and stuff. So I just wanted to say that as well. Like
oh,
I do
no
appreciate the
worries.
support.
That's what I want to do my best do. Just support folks who are, you know, trying to make their way in the world as creative folks, putting in creative labor into
Yeah,
the universe.
no, exactly, and I can assure you that we all appreciate that very much. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Before we go, Noons, if you want to share any projects again with folks who have made it to the end of the podcast, and of course, I'll be putting it in description as always. I'll be sharing it. I'll be making a
Yeah,
couple
for sure.
posts on Instagram about it. But if there is anything that you want folks to know that might be coming up or that you have already out, let them have it.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I do have another Wicked Sick production coming up soon. We're doing a Twitch event sometime next month. Nothing's been, officially announced just yet, but it's all in the works and it will be here soon. So keep an eye open for that.
Hell yeah.
And another thing, I wanted to shout out some music that I've been listening to a lot lately. I'd like to shout out a producer called DJ Recode, who
Mm-hmm.
recently, a few months ago, put out their Recode Pop album. And yeah, like definitely one of the best albums to have come out this year. Probably my favorite album that has come out in sort of the um, digital music space that I'm a part of. So, 100% go check out that incredible album, and also the Rock Angels tour that they're doing
Mm.
later this year as well in the summer, which I think is going to New York and a few other East Coast areas. So, um, yeah, that's it. I think that's those are the handful of things I wanted to mention there.
Hell yeah. You heard them. You heard them. You prefer they or he?
I don't mind honestly. Either's fine. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. You heard Noons. That's usually the easiest way to settle those
Yeah,
disputes.
exactly,
Um,
exactly.
Once again, thank you all for listening. Please check out Noons' work. They are an incredible force in the online digital sphere of music and entertainment. Um, you know, Camerata podcasts are gonna try and put out more regularly. I have a few recording sessions lined up. So if you enjoy these casts, please check out the Camerata on Instagram, where we have all the news of our local events, all the news of our collaborative projects, all that sort of stuff. And can't say it enough. Thank you. Thank you for listening. And adios.